Good. Now we've got our 3 numbers for the first sample, 11, 14, and 10. Now I'm going to keep going down, 87, 23, nope, up to the, now I'm in columns 3 and 4. Coming down, no, 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 no. And there we go, 04. That's a good number. So that's our next one. Next number, 14. Oh, we had that already, so we can't reuse it. So I've marked it there by crossing it off. 22, 36, up 10. Oh, same thing, have to not use it. Down below, 15, we're good there. And down, 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 and number 2. So we have our 2 sets. Now the first one in blue, 11, 14, and 10. The second one, 4, not using the 14 or the 10, then 15 and 2. Now for this demo, I'm going to use some emulation software rather than trying to film my hand on the camera, but it should mimic your keystrokes exactly. On this, I've listed where to find the key because that's a bunch of the problem. So for example, I say turn on the calculator at 9-1. That will be 9 down, first column. So it's right there. I've turned on the calculator. Now I want to go to stat, which is 2 down, 1, 2, 3 across, hit the stat button. And you can see what comes up here is edit, calculate, and test. We want to edit. So I can either hit the number 1, or I can, since it has to be highlighted right at the moment, I can also hit enter. Now there's some data in the calculator already, and I'm going to put this data in L2. So let me go up to L2, and at 3 down, 5 across, hit the clear button, and then hit the enter button. And you can see now that I've gotten rid of the data that had been in there. So I'm ready to enter the 3 data points that we've got. And that was 4, 2, and 0. So 4, enter, 2, enter, 0, enter. Now, before I stick that in, though, I do recall that sometimes the TI has a little bit of quirkiness with the 0 as the last entry. And so to avoid that, I'm going to put the 0 in next to last, and then the 2 as last. And that will just keep the calculator from getting confused because 0 is not the same as nothing. All right, I have all 3 data points entered in there. I now want to go to stat again, 2 down, 3 across. Now I want to go to calculate. So I'm going to arrow key over 1. I'm at calculate. Now what I have my choices here, as you can see, is number 1 is 1 variable statistics. That's the one we're interested in. There's 2 variable statistics, like if you had an X and a Y. And then there's a whole series of other things, including linear regressions, which we might use in chapter 4. But let's take a look at the 1 var stat, which is what we wanted. So I hit enter there. Now it says, where is your list? Where is your data? What list did you put it in? Now we had ours in L2, but if we default to that, then we have to actually put it in. And here in the blue above these, where you see the L1, L2, L3, L4, etc., that's the L's they're looking for. Do not try to use the alphabetic one and go over here to L and hit the number. I did that for when I first got the calculator. I could never figure out where it was. And the answer is I was looking in the wrong place. So you're going to hit list or shift and then L2 and you've got it. Now, frequency list. We're not using that one, so I'll arrow key down. I want to go to calculate, hit enter, and there's our data. You'll see up here, X bar, that would be the mean, is 2. The sum of all the X's, that would be 6 goals over those 3 years, is sum of the X is 6. Sum of the X squared is 20. We're not using that at the moment, but we will for some other things later. S of X, sigma of X. Here's what I was talking about. S of X, remember the Roman letters are S is for sample, S is for statistic. that will be the standard deviation in the sample. The sigma of x, this line right there, that is the standard deviation of the population. Notice it's dividing by a different number. Now, number of samples in that group 3. I keep scrolling down. The minimum was 0. The median, the middle number, was 2, and the maximum number is 4. And here again, we see a little bit of a quirk within the TI system, right? The 3 numbers, 0, 2, 4. So the Q1 is halfway between what? Halfway between the median and the min. So halfway between 2 and 0 should be 1, but the calculator takes it as 0. And halfway between 2 and 4 should be 3, and the calculator calls it 4. I'm just pointing this out because you need to use the calculator for things that you know are going to work. And if you're a little hesitant about whether it is, do an example like we did here by hand and make sure the calculator is okay. Normally there isn't a problem. This just happens to be one where there is. So there I've got my data, and I'm ready to record that data. So here on your next slide, you can see what I did, and there we can add these in. So what did we have here? We had a mean of, oh, we didn't do those other ones yet. Let's hop back here and get them. We're done here. I want to do a stat and then arrow key over 1 to calculate. Well, I'll tell you what, I know they're here, but let me show you that they're here. Let me do the edit, and notice here in L3, over there on L3, that's where we got the other data points. So I should be able to do the same thing over again. Down 2 over 3 to stat, arrow key over 1 to calculate, at 1 var stat. Now I want to hit shift L3, calculate. Okay, and for that other data set, it's 12, 2.6, 2.1, and equals 3 still. And this time it had no problem with the 5-number summary. It got the min Q1, median Q3, max, where it should have for those, and the ones in the middle, it missed it again. This should be 10.5, and this should be halfway between 11 and 15, which is 13. So now we're in a position to put down the numbers that we want there. I'll fill them in for you. There we go. Now, does this seem intuitively correct? Well, these were quite a bit different. And what I would suggest that you might want to try is go back to that slide that had all the 18 years and try putting that in and looking at how those happen. Is this intuitively correct? Well, no, really it isn't. But what happened there? The answer is we're using a random number table, and we randomly chose 3 sets of numbers, and the randomness was considerably different. But that's how it was, and that's makes it a good sampling and a good statistical thing to do, even though it may not be intuitive there. Finally, you may want to look on your calculator. That stat key had both the edit that we did use, the calculate that we used one of quite a few there, and then also to the right of that is something called test. If you go to the math key at 3 down, first column, you'll see a bunch of things: math, num, CPX, PRB. The PRB down here at the bottom, that's probability. And in fact, we can get random numbers in that probability thing, although again, it's a little bit, it's an algorithm, not a real random number table, but it works for just a couple of numbers. Okay, so to summarize this video, what we wanted to do here is use the TI 8384 series of calculators to use the 1 var stat function to give us the means and the standard deviations. We're going to need that a lot of times throughout this course.